Hello, good Saturday afternoon. Carl Rominger here, 540-0580, 540-0580. As some of you who followed the Twitter feeds know, I was in jury trial in Lancaster County most of this past week, and government won the case. I thought I did a good job, did what I could, and it was a great trial in the sense of lawyers going at it, and Dan Dye, who represented the Commonwealth for the DA's office in Lancaster, who's a fine, upstanding gentleman, did an excellent job, and I much enjoyed trying the case with him because I think we both kept it clean. We got a little hubbub in the courtroom once or twice, but other than that, I really thoroughly enjoyed trying a case with him. Again, Dan Dye at the Lancaster County DA's office is a true gentleman. If you have any questions you want to talk about, you want to ask me about legal issues in your life, you call 540-0580, 540-0580. For those of you who haven't heard before, this is Weekend Appointment. We're the show here on WHP 580 on the weekend where I, Carl Rominger, attorney at law, answer your legal questions on the air. And, of course, the price is always right. Instead of those $75 consultation fees, you call in and you get it for free. So 540-0580. Shane, man, he just bounce off sometimes. Also, as you do know, probably, you can go to weekendappointment.com throughout the week and post questions there. And, of course, I told people, you want to post a good article up there. I'll take a look at it, and I was going to award some gift certificates. So far, we got one by Dale, who's got a story about when he went to court at 18. And you should read that on weekendappointment.com. It's under the Pennsylvania court stories. I said if you have a court story or an almost court story, or the time you thought you were going to have to go to court, or the time you consulted with a lawyer and about potential legal problem, and you want to just tell the rest of us about your experience. Dale right now is in the running for the gift certificate because he's got the first post, and it's pretty good. So read it, and it'll give you an idea of what we're looking for. Dale, you're getting a gift certificate either way, even if somebody tops you. But if somebody does top you, I'm going to probably end up giving them a gift certificate as well. Jan, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. How are you today?
Good. Hi, Carl. I have a question about Homeowners Association.
HOAs. Go ahead.
The Homeowners Association bylaws, covenants, and restrictions do not spell out how the homeowners can remove an abusive board from the association.
Okay.
What does the Planned Community Act say about that?
Well, that's kind of too specific of a question for me to answer on the fly. So two things. First of all, I want you to post that on weekendappointment.com so I can actually look at the act and give you an intelligent response.
Okay.
Because I don't have the act in front of me at the moment. But generally speaking, you have two options. One is you're going to be able to have an election, obviously, and that must be coming up at some point. And at any point, you can replace a, quote, abusive board by voting in new people. Alternatively, you may have a recall provision somewhere, but it doesn't sound like you have one in your agreement. Yeah. So at some point, the only other thing you could do is if the board is acting outside the scope of the charter and without authority and engaging in, like, what would we call it, ultra vires activities, you might be able to stop them with a lawsuit. But I'm going to have to take a look at the act to see what remedy you might have.
Well, we want to avoid litigation. That would be the
When's your vote?
Recourse.
When's your next vote?
Well, actually, we were supposed to have a vote in March, and it didn't happen because nothing was done according to the bylaws. There was no nominated. No one was nominated. One person asked to be on the roster and was refused. So it's just a mess.
Yeah.
So we're recalling and having another election in April. These folks have refused to step down, though, stating that they have one more term on the board. The bylaws, again, does not spell out terms.
Interesting. You may have to resort to litigation if you have a group of people refusing to step down and you have some ambiguous bylaws one way or the other. So do me a favor, go to weekendappointment.com, and anybody else can do that as well, and post their legal question there. And Jan, I'll take a crack at it.
I will do that. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Sometimes people catch me with a specific question. What does the Act of 1947 relate to? And I got to get the Act in front of me. I got to look it up. I know you guys don't think we lawyers actually do any work, but believe it or not, we spend an inordinate amount of time looking this stuff up. 540-0580. Jeff, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. Jeff.
Hi. How are you doing?
Good, man. What's going on?
I got a question about insurance companies. Traffic accident involving a person who went through a stop sign. Okay?
Okay.
And they got a ticket for going through that stop sign. So, small side street going onto a more major artery, hit a vehicle. All right? They got a stop sign. But their insurance company claims, oh, we must be 25% at fault.
Okay.
Even though they got a stop sign for going through a through a stop sign.
Right.
And, they say, please sign all this stuff. And if you sign it, send us a notarized form that says you forever hold us harmless and all this other stuff.
Right, so you can't sue them.
Right. But is it worth the effort to say, wait a minute, 25, this is ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Right.
Is there anything you can do besides suing them?
No, the answer is that's your recourse. You have to sue the opposing party. And when you sue the opposing party, you win a judgment against them, and the insurance company has to indemnify them for that. So whoever the other party, the other driver was, ultimately you sue them, and you don't have to accept that 25% fault allocation. But if they want you to accept it, and you accept it, it is what it is. They're entitled to take whatever position they want, and the judge or the jury will ultimately decide who's at fault and at what percentage.
Okay, so it has to go to court. So
if you're not happy with what they're offering you, your only recourse is within the 2-year statute of limitations to sue.
So it's and for $600, there's basically not really worth the amount. The 25% amounts to $600.
Right. And that's and are you limited tort?
No.
Okay. Nobody was actually hurt though.
No, nobody's hurt. Just vehicle damage, but the other party went through a stop sign and got a ticket. Yeah,
and that should put them 100% at fault. But like I say, the other side's entitled to say, hey, well, assured clear distance, even though they ran the stop sign, you could have been a better defensive driver, so we're going to sign you 25%. If you disagree with that, you got to go to court. That's your recourse.
All right.
Sue them in small claims court, my friend.
All right. Okay, thank you much.
All right.
Bye.
Yep, and that's how, remember those insurance companies, they love you. They want to give you money. Oh, well, maybe not. 540-0580, 540-0580. Carl Rominger here. I'll see you after the break. Hey, welcome back. Carl Rominger here. 540-0580. Got lots of callers here, so let me free up some lines for you. Tim, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. What's going on? Tim.
Oh, hello, Carl. I received a citation in the mail from Montgomery County, Maryland.
Okay. From
their automated traffic enforcement unit. What I have on it is 3 photos. My daughter borrowed my car and is driving through Montgomery County, Maryland. And they have 2 photos of her driving down a 2-lane road, and then also a photo of my license plate. And they're saying that she was speeding, going like 40 in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, and they sent me a $40 fine. I just want to know, do I have any recourse? Is that something I should pay, or is there any way around this, or what?
Well, the short answer is she's the driver, right?
Right.
So technically she's responsible. Do you have any reason to believe she wasn't doing what they allege?
Oh, she probably was. I wouldn't doubt it.
So 2 things. Don't loan her the car again.
Okay.
Number 2 is extract the money out of her hide. Before it would cost you to fight it or to even fiddle with it, the only thing you could do is claim that you weren't the driver of the car, and I don't know if they have an appeals process on there for you to send it in or not.
Well, they give you the option to have a court date.
Right, and then you have to drive down there.
Mm-hmm.
So 6 of one, half dozen of another. We usually tell people if it's not going to result in a license suspension or license issue for you, and probably no points on your license because you weren't the driver. It's just the idea.
That's what my concern was, because they have no idea who the driver was. They have my name on the violation.
Okay, so you might have an issue there, because Maryland is probably in the driver's license compact. So you're probably 47. I don't think Maryland's exempted one of the 3. So you're probably going to get some points potentially. What I would usually recommend folks do is find a lawyer in that area I just talked to, and I'll give you an example. I just talked to a truck driver from Pittsburgh yesterday, and he hired me to go out to do a speeding ticket hearing for him. Now, he's not going to drive in from Pittsburgh. I'm going to just simply go out and take care of it for him. And our exact discussion was, what do you want? No points. Okay, no points, done deal. Got it. And so I'll roll out. I'll work out a no points deal for him on his behalf, enter a guilty plea on his behalf to the no points charge, and live happily ever after. So you might want to find a lawyer in Maryland to do that, but then that's going to cost you a few $100 at least.
Right. All right. Maybe somehow I can check with Montgomery County and see if it does actually go on my record, even though I'm not the driver.
Well, and here's what they're going to tell you. They're going to go, well, we don't really know because our DOT will do something with it, and whether it'll get transferred to PA or not, I don't know. The other option you have is to get a Pennsylvania lawyer like myself and have us translate it for you. And what I mean by that is, if I look at the charge, I have a big tome I can look it up in, and I can figure out what it could do to your Pennsylvania license.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Ooh, boy, lend that car to your daughter and get a ticket in the mail. I know what I'd be doing with that ticket. I know who I'd be talking to right now. Sylvia in WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. My talk line number is 540-0580. What's going on, Sylvia?
Hi. My parents have been placed into a nursing home, and they have established powers of attorney. My father put my brother, and my mother has me. Now, neither have been declared incompetent. However, my mother can no longer communicate. Now, we have some issues with several things. The home was given to myself through a right-to-life estate.
Okay.
Now, our first problem is we need to negate that life estate for both of them because they're now in a nursing home to put the properly legally, not legally because it is already in my name, but because they have the right to life, they were responsible for the taxes and all those things. So I would assume I'd need a lawyer to have something drawn up to say that they have given up that life estate.
Well, they have to actually give it up. Yeah.
Okay, so that would have to be a legal issue to have it done.
Do they have the ability to sign a deed over, and are they willing to do so?
Willing, yes. Capability, she, no, and that's why I'm her power of attorney. He could sign it, but he would have his power of attorney do
Right,
that.
right. So, okay.
It would still have to go through a legal thing, right?
Oh, yeah, you'd have to get a deed. Now, next question is that in their best interest? And the answer is what you're saying is they have a life estate in the property, but they're not using it any longer.
Yeah.
Why are you worried about that?
Well, my next question would probably answer that. Now, the things that are left in the house, we're having a big discussion, and that's putting it politely, as to how those things should be divided up. The one TOA is saying, well, this stuff's all going on auction, and the other is saying, I'm saying it ought to stay within the family.
Who's paying for their care?
Medicaid.
See, and that's where you guys might want to follow Medicaid, because if you start divvying up their personalty or sell it, that money's got to be recaptured for the Medicaid.
Well, who can tell me exactly what needs to be followed there?
Well, what's going to happen is Medicaid's going to have a lien against the estate. And when they pass away, Medicaid's going to come in and ask for their money. And then they're going to see who did what with it.
Okay.
And then they're going to go after the people who took it.
Okay.
So my advice in this circumstance might be, you guys are getting a little ahead of the gun here. What you might want to do is liquidate things and put the money into an account and potentially use it, and maybe work with the nursing home folks to see if there's any way to build a supplemental income stream so you can get them a couple extras while they're there. Because Medicaid does allow some of that. So,
okay.
Yeah, you need to sit down with a lawyer and go over the exact facts and circumstances. I get involved in cases all the time where we're setting aside transfers and going after folks who've run off with money because the Department of Public Welfare will come looking for you later.
Well, now, if I don't touch any of it and I'm still her power of attorney,
you're not personally liable as long as you don't actually, sign off on this stuff. I mean, in your capacity as your power of attorney, if you help funnel this stuff to third parties, then theoretically, yeah, you could be responsible for defrauding the state of Pennsylvania.
But between the siblings, are we allowed to divide that stuff amongst ourselves without selling it and getting any monetary value from it?
Well, but then you're still
big items. I mean, it's mostly sentimental stuff.
Right. Well, yeah, and the sentimental stuff really has no practical value. What we usually would do is have an auctioneer come in and put values on everything. And the reason we do that is so that he picks out the 10 items that he can auction, and then he says the rest of this is junk, it's crap, we're not doing anything with it. And then you guys can divide it up, and you got a nice document that explains to the state why you didn't get any money for it. You don't want to end up in a recrimination later on where somebody says, well, there was some valuable items, and those have all disappeared, and this is the sister that took them.
You know, I'm not touching it. Like I need a noose around my neck, you know. Now, as far as the right to life, when things are done,
right,
the house and the property is supposed to be back to its original condition, correct?
It reverts to whoever's the remainder man on the deed.
Right, but as far as condition of the property, if things have been damaged and things,
well, that's always the problem with life estates. They have a duty to take care of the house,
even if it's not in print. I mean, not in a legal.
Well, it is. They have a life estate in it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm just saying that the person who has an interest in a life estate should be taking care of the property, and they could be potentially surcharged by the other people by saying, you know, you didn't take good care of it. But it doesn't sound like they have a lot of assets either.
Right. So if there's things that have been damaged over the course of the last 2 or 3 years,
right,
I technically could just submit a bill to the property itself or to the estate and say these need to be.
Yeah, you need to do some upkeep and maintenance on this, right?
Okay.
But again, you're asking for some simple answers here, and there are no simple answers here. You have got to sit down with a lawyer. You do not want to do this. You don't want to do this based on 5 minutes on the radio.
Right. That's kind of where I thought you'd be. Now, is this something you handle?
We could help you with it.
Okay. All right. Well, great. I enjoy your show.
Thank you very much, Sylvia.
Mm-hmm. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, folks, and I call them these end-of-life issues where you have folks who are in the nursing home who aren't going to be returning home, and you have to figure out what to do with the property. Not stuff you should just be doing blindly. Talk with a lawyer. 540-0580, 540-0580. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions. Donna, you're on WHP 580. Donna.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
How are you?
Friend of mine. Good. How are you?
Not too bad.
Great.
All right. What's your question?
Yeah. A friend of mine filed for an appointment for Divorce Master in July of 2009.
Okay.
He's on his third one. The first one was postponed due to a conflict of scheduling with the attorneys. The Divorce Master had resigned. The second time of the conflict of interest, the Divorce Master was disqualified, and then now it's the third one, and he's just afraid that they'll keep postponing this and postponing this. Is there any way that you can file a complaint with someone? I mean, how long can they keep postponing these appointments with these divorce masters?
Well, theoretically, the court has a duty to promptly handle it. The people you could complain to are the judicial board, and you could go to the Supreme Court, Pennsylvania's website, and you can find the appropriate links to complain.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this. Now, obviously, one of the postponements was scheduling. Then the master was fired or resigned.
Mm-hmm.
Resigned. Mm-hmm. So, some of this is out of the court's control at some level.
Mm-hmm.
So in that respect, I mean, you can't control all of it.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, you're right. At a certain point, I'm involved in a case out of one of the local counties where it took them 2 years to get through the master's process, and it was completely ridiculous.
Yeah, well, this has been since July of 2009.
Yeah, well, you're saying July of 2009, so we're only, 6 months down the road, 8 months down the road, 8 months, 7 months? What's the math on that? It isn't a year yet, right? And there's been at least
almost 8 months, right?
Right. And there's been 2 problems that were created, one by a conflict and one by a resignation. So in that respect, it doesn't seem like it's completely out of control yet. When's the next scheduled date?
April 1st.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be far enough that and given those circumstances, it's not like somebody just ignored you for a year.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
How long can they keep postponing them now?
Well, it depends who's postponing it and what the reasons are and what the agreement is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if one of the parties comes down with the Black Plague, probably that would be a good reason for additional postponement. On the other hand, if one of the lawyers just says, well, I realize I'm double booked, well, you should have realized that, a few months ago when we put this on the calendar. So
they can't just keep doing that.
It can't go on forever.
Mm-hmm.
Can't go on forever. But it doesn't sound, to me, and this sounds a little jaded, but after you've been in the court system long enough, if it takes them less than a year to get something done, we're not yet at an emergency status of what the heck's going on here, because I'm just so used to it. There's some judges that we go in front of. You do a hearing and you need another day for the hearing, and the judge says at the end of the day, "All right, I'll see you guys in August 3rd," and you're like, it's March, August 3rd. Okay, we'll come back August 3rd, and then on August 3rd you wrap up the testimony, and then on October 12th you get a decision.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Take
Bye-bye.
care. Have a great weekend. 540-0580. Carl Rominger here on Weekend Appointment answering your legal questions. I'll see you after the break. 540-0580. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions on this fine, sunny Saturday afternoon, where to the right of me it says flood watch through tomorrow night. Today, cloudy and breezy with periods of rain and drizzle, low in the 50s. Tonight, rain becoming heavy, windy in the mid-40s. Tomorrow, rainy and windy. I hope maybe that's Friday's. Was that Friday's report, Shane, or is that today's? That's today's report. Oh, what do I know? So, little flood warning out there for you folks, so pay attention. Let's see, who's next? Ann, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. What's going on?
Hello.
Ann? Yes.
Mr. Rominger?
Yes, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for taking my call. I have a question about real estate. If someone gets married, I'm a little bit hesitant about this couple that's getting married. If the gentleman has a house, is there any way the other person, the female, could take half of that house if this doesn't work out?
Now, wait a minute. He owns the house now.
Yes.
And they're about to get married.
Yes.
And then if they got divorced, could she take half of that house? And the answer is no. Theoretically, the non-marital baseline is the value of the house at the time it comes into the marriage.
Okay.
However, as the marriage goes on, if certain other kinds of property are accumulated or lost, there might be an argument that a distribution of the non-marital portion of the value might be necessary to offset the...
Like if it would go up in value.
Now, if it goes up in value, the increase in value is the marital portion, and that portion is divisible.
Yeah.
And, of course, then if people take on more debt, and then that becomes marital debt, and then maybe there's an argument that the house was refinanced, and some of that money was used to buy...
It won't be refinanced, I don't think.
Well, I'm just telling you all the things that can happen. So the two ways we handle that is, one, we say, well, we're truly in love, so who cares? That's not the great legal route.
Right.
The other route's called, how about a prenup?
That's what was my next question. Can you do one?
Absolutely.
Okay, I have to convince him. Just a few flags in this relationship that I'm not comfortable with. And I thought, well, I'll ask questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, I think he has a few questions himself.
Well, why don't you send him in to see me? You can find my contact information on weekendappointment.com.
Yeah, well, we know where you're at.
Got it.
In Carlisle.
Yep.
Okay, thanks so much.
Come see me.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, let's see. 540-0580. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions. And who's next? Steve, you're on WHP 580. What's going on?
Hello.
Hey, Steve.
How you doing?
Good, man.
All right, I got a real question for you.
Yeah.
I was in prison, okay, and every day you have to stand for count. Well, as I was standing up, I had narcolepsy, and I fell asleep. So the guy put me in the RHU, and I wasn't supposed to be there because I'm not supposed to put people in with narcolepsy. So then it got to the point I kept bugging them, and they got tired of me, so they put me in the SMU at Camp Hill. That was a very bad place.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And so this doctor came down and he said, "Stephen, how are you?" Well, I said, "Okay, I guess." So what happened, my narcolepsy turned around, did a 180 on me, and now I couldn't go to sleep at night unless I had sleeping pills, okay? And so when the doctor came down to see me, he said, "Stephen, what do you need? Anything?" I said, "Yeah, I need sleeping medicine at night. You go to sleep." He said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're not getting any." And so for 5.5 years, I stayed up all day and all night, except for 2 hours here, 2 hours there, in a week's time, and I was really in trouble. So I'd like to know if I can bring a lawsuit against these people.
Well, what you're going to want to do is find a civil rights lawyer and look at whether or not you have any claims against the government under what's called Section 1983 for an Eighth Amendment claim, which is cruel and unusual punishment. But to the extent that there was any medical malpractice, you just have a regular medical malpractice lawsuit against the treating physician.
Uh-huh.
All right?
You think I have a chance?
You know what? The answer is you never know. I've referred a few of these out over the years.
And plus I have a witness.
Yeah, that helps. But I say I've referred a few of these out over the years to folks, and I've been surprised by the results. Sometimes there's nothing there, and sometimes there's quite a bit. So
I just wondered because I've been...
Call a civil rights lawyer and a medical malpractice lawyer or somebody who does both and start from there, my friend, okay?
A medical malpractice lawyer, okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, folks, sometimes the government doesn't treat you so well when you're incarcerated. And particularly when people have obscure medical problems, they don't always seem to diagnose them right away. And I think part of the problem is because so many of the prisoners are being jerks most of the time and feigning illness or problems or claiming that they need help or that it's hard to sort out the people that are legitimately hurt. 540-0580. Stan, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. Hey, Stan.
Oh, Stan. Yeah. I'll cut to the chase, save you the big, long story. I had a disorderly conduct charge down in Philadelphia, and basically the judge ruled no criminal intent. And I went there without representation. I didn't have the financial wherewithal to obtain a lawyer. I'm curious on what that entails or what that implies, that no criminal intent. Will that show up on my long-term record? Or?
Oh, wait a minute. You had so you have no... Start from scratch. I'm not following you.
Yeah, sorry, it was a little convoluted. I had a disorderly conduct charge. I could not obtain a lawyer. I went and represented myself. The charge was pretty well fabricated. I was attacked and maced and beaten by police while I was trying to tend to a friend that had been hit with a brick during a riot. I wasn't involved with the riot at all. I was just tending to my friend until the ambulance came to take him away.
Right. Did you plead guilty or not guilty?
See, I went there and got railroaded through. They have a special, it was over 4th of July weekend, and they have a special court because they have such a high volume of delinquents or whatever. And they just tell you, okay, well, if you plead guilty, you do your you do your public service, and then it'll be expunged from your record.
Okay.
So I pled guilty. Then when I went in, they said they'd be able to discuss what your penalty would be. When I went in there, they just pulled out a pre-printed out form, and it had listed what I had to do. And the guy kind of cringed. He said, "Holy crap." I said, "What?" And I had, I think, 46 hours of public service. They got the maximum, and the guy said that he's never, ever seen somebody get the maximum. Evidently, it was because I was involved in a disorderly conduct altercation with police officers, so they threw the maximum at me. I said, this is BS anyway, because I was just trying to get my friend into the ambulance, and the police said, what are you doing? You got to get out of here. I said, I'm not leaving until my friend gets in the ambulance, et cetera, et cetera. Next thing I know, I'm maced and being beat and dragged off to the... So
what year was this? How long ago?
2005.
Okay. Is it showing up on your criminal record now?
That's what I'm wondering. So I withdrew my guilty plea, went back weeks later, went to the court hearing, and explained my situation. The judge said, yeah, there's no criminal intent. And I said, what does that mean? She says, you're free to leave. I said, okay. But it came up in my mind because last week I was listening to your show, and I heard a woman was calling about her husband who had pled guilty in the past, and now he can't get a firearm. So I'm wondering if the no criminal intent will still be on my record. What's your...
Well, the answer is she may have dismissed it. So if it's dismissed, you're entitled to an expungement to get it off. So you should show as charged and then dismissed potentially.
Okay.
So you're going to have to pull your criminal record, and if it's showing up there as charged and dismissed, then let me know and we can get it expunged.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thanks for your help again.
All right, thank you.
Welcome. Bye-bye.
540-058. It took me a little while to understand what he's saying there, but I think what I got out of that, folks, was he pled guilty initially, but he withdrew his guilty plea. He went to see the judge. The judge said no criminal intent, meaning basically that the government didn't have a case. You can commit a crime, as I was telling Bob Durgan this the other day, you can commit a crime, but it's not really a crime unless you know it's wrong. Now, not every crime requires that state of mind. We call that scienter. That's the idea that you know what you're doing is wrong. So I'll give you the quick example. You go and you find a $10 bill blowing down the street. Now, it could be somebody else's $10 bill, but you don't have the intent to deprive anybody else of it. But let's say it's a little old lady just blew out of her purse and flew right into your hand, and you didn't see her because she was around the bend, but somebody around the corner saw it. They might say, wow, it looks like that guy took that lady's $10 bill. And the court would say, well, he didn't know it was her $10 bill, and we understand why you might thought that, but you can't prove that it was in his heart to deprive that particular person of their $10 bill as it blew down the road, if that makes sense. Same idea is you think that something actually legitimately belongs to me. I sell it to you. It actually belongs to Shane because I stole it from him, and I sold it to you at a commercially reasonable price, so you have no reason to believe that it's stolen. You haven't committed a crime because even though you've bought stolen property, you didn't know you bought stolen property. So if you're aiding or helping somebody and there's no criminal intent and the police, get involved with you, you should be found not guilty. Of course, you can see how they try to railroad you in the first instance. 540-0580. Jack, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. Jack.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I didn't hear you at first. Why, real quick to summarize this, I want to thank you for your service that you're providing here.
Thank you very much.
Sure. My wife just recently passed away, and she had been in a nursing home for a couple of years before that. Now, the only thing she left was we have a joint checking account with both our names on it, and, of course, life insurance that helped pay for the funeral and a little bit that's left over. Would Medicaid be able to come back on any of that, or is that not? Would that not be a part of her estate? How is that?
The asset you're talking about, was that titled to her?
What, you mean the checking account?
Yeah.
It has her name on and my name on.
Right. Would joint right of survivorship?
I don't know if it would be that or not. I really don't know.
Okay, yeah. Depending on how that bank account was titled,
okay.
It may have passed 100% to you upon death. I don't think that they can come back after it per se.
Okay.
But then again, a lot of times it comes down to this kind of inquiry. When did you park the money in there? So if you take $50,000, I'm just giving you a hypothetical.
Yeah.
You take $50,000 out of an account, you put it into a jointly owned account at the time that the person's already clearly headed to the nursing home or is already in the nursing home.
Right.
We can go backwards and say, hey, wait a minute. We all know what this was really about. You were trying to make sure that when something happened, it passed to you outside of their estate.
Oh, okay.
So we call that a fraudulent transfer. On the other hand, if you became joint owners of the account, 20 years ago and the money just been accumulating in there, we'd have a much better argument that money was really just your money at that point and there was nobody was trying to defraud anybody.
Okay.
However, at the time of admission, Medicare probably would have asked about some of those things, so you would have disclosed any joint accounts that she held, and there may be somewhere in the paperwork where there was an understanding as to what portions of that may or may not have been captured.
Okay, and like I say, now how about Medicaid coming back now? The life insurance money that she left.
Life insurance money completely off the table.
That's off the table. And how about certainly an automobile that would be in both our names or something like that?
Yeah, I don't think they'll come after that.
Anything like that, or
no
house or anything like that? No.
I don't. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Let me think about that.
Yeah.
I got to go to break. You want to hold with me for a minute?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Hey, just wanted to toot my own horn for just a second. Patriot News today carried an article about one of my cases. So if you go to PennLive.com, you can read up on it. But I put it up as a link on the front of WeekendAppointment.com. So if you go to the front of WeekendAppointment.com, you can read about a case I won. I may have already mentioned it to you, but always nice to get your name in print on something you won. Down there in the Lancaster case that I lost, apparently I saw appeared in Lancaster online. So I got one in where I won, I got one in where I lost. Hey, what can you do? Jack, you were patiently holding for me.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure, and I thank you again for your help.
No problem. You know what? Is this what I thought? There is a form you fill out when you go in, or usually do, and there is something called a spousal impoverishment rule that allows you to keep a spousal share.
Okay.
So basically that does include, let's see, Spouses, certain assets be excluded. The most significant exclusions are the couple's residence, household goods, and personal effects, and in Pennsylvania, the healthy spouse's IRA.
Okay.
There are some maximums and minimums and lots of crazy calculations on that, but nonetheless, the house should be safe.
So Medicaid can't come back against a house or a car or
right. Now, of course, when you originally applied for Medicaid, I assume that, and usually the homes are very good at helping you fill out all these forms.
Oh yeah.
So you should double check, but as long as you filled out the right paperwork early on, most of that should be exempt.
Okay.
But there are, like I say, maximum and minimum, so we'd want to look at that.
Okay.
All right?
All right. Well, I thank you very much.
All right, thanks for holding.
Sure, thank you.
I went and talked to my good friend Google while we were on the break to pull up a little ditty about that to get the specifics. I was right, though. You do have to fill that form out. Rudy, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. Rudy.
Yes.
What's going on, my friend?
Hi, Carl. How you doing?
Good.
Hey, I have a call into your office, but I was listening today, so I just figured I'd save you the call back and talk to you.
Okay.
Looking for elder law attorney.
Uh-huh.
I wonder if you could help me out with that, or possibly refer me to someone and maybe a ballpark figure of what this would run. I'm talking like durable power of attorney, estate planning, living will.
Uh-huh.
Probably something like a health care power of attorney.
Uh-huh. Well, the short answer is, if you remember weekendappointment.com, you get the will for free. And then I have a special also on durable powers of attorney and healthcare power of attorney that goes with that. So people have been buying those at a greatly reduced rate if they sign up through a weekend appointment free will program. As for the general advice on the other estate planning issues, we go hourly on that, and you can figure to spend anywhere from a couple $100 to a couple $1,000, depending on how many assets we have, what the plans are, and what kinds of things we might have to set up for you ultimately, although most people are on the low end. But because, for instance, because of the spousal share protection that we were just talking about a minute ago with the other caller.
Well, I'm not married right now.
Right. So and then we need to talk about that and how to preserve assets and how to create an income stream so that you can hopefully preserve your assets entirely.
Okay. Should I set up the appointment through online with your?
You'll just remind me when you come see me that you talk. Call into my office. Let them know you talked with me on the air, and just remind me what I told you, and I'll hook you up.
Okay, and then you want a general idea of my assets before I come.
Yeah, and in fact, if you go to weekendappointment.com and sign up, there's a form you can download that you fill out, and that has those questions on it as part of the free will program. Because I got to make sure that people aren't writing simple wills when they have bigger asset issues. So it has a little bit of a disclosure issue in there. So
okay.
All right, Rudy, go to weekendappointment.com, fill out that kit, send it in, and just call and talk with Tammy or Linda and get in to see me.
Okay, thanks a lot, Carl.
All right, thank you.
Bye now.
540-0580. Tom, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Follow-up question
to
that where you said you could be not guilty of a crime because you didn't know it was a crime when you committed it. I've never been out there, but when the Hollywood Casino first opened up, so many people were arrested for theft because they sat down at a slot machine that somebody had left money in.
Right.
I call that stupidity, not theft.
And
if I was on a jury, I'd have a hard time finding somebody guilty of that. What is the legal basis for that?
Well, there is a statute that actually says that is the property of the casino. And mistake of law is not a defense, but mistake of fact is. And so you still have to know that even though there's a law that says that's the casino's money at that point, you still have to know that that's the casino's money at that point. So by law it becomes the casino's money, but you still have to know that. So you can have a mistake of fact. And the reality is what they do is they arrest a lot of people, and what you probably find out on the back end was nothing really happened. They just wanted to splash in the newspaper to remind people that there was a casino, and number two, to remind people about that particular legal issue. But let me tell you something. If people simply pled guilty to everything that the police or the government accused them of that they didn't do, I mean, then there would be a lot more guilty pleas. There are so many times. I'm kind of rambling. When I started as a lawyer, I thought what can you do? I mean, I'm sure the government carefully investigates this, and they carefully make sure before they charge somebody with a crime that they actually did something wrong. And then when you become a lawyer and start doing some criminal defense work, you realize that 80% of your job is simply to look the thing over and go, well, there's no crime here. And then you go talk to the police officer, and sometimes the police officer goes, oh, I agree. I'll withdraw the charges. And then other times the police officer's like, too bad. Take it to the judge. And sometimes the judge looks at you and says, I don't even know why we're here, Mr. Rominger. I've been saying that all along, Judge. So you find that a very large amount of your work is simply going, wait a minute, you're not guilty of anything, so let's just go point it out to the judge or maybe get the government to withdraw the charges. So it doesn't surprise me that they would have charged a bunch of people with something that they probably couldn't actually prove was a crime. Happens every day. It happens at all levels. I mean, look at some of the statewide trials we have going on right now.
I guess only in America where they do all the paperwork and then just say, hey, there's no crime. All right.
And a lot of times it's like the guys on the street would probably be like, well, listen, the boss said go to the casino and arrest as many people as possible. They were running around beating up on, right before the casinos opened, they were running around beating up on small games of chances at all the veterans organizations. You think it's coincidental that suddenly the LCB found small games of chance violations at dozens and dozens of veterans organizations right before the casinos opened, and then as part of the punishment that the LCB was handing down was, well, here's what we'll do. You agree not to run small games of chance for 90 days, and we'll overlook these violations. Or was the fix-in to make sure that as maximum number of people who needed to go fix their gambling problem got to the casino.
Right.
I'm not saying there was a conspiracy. I'm just saying it just seemed highly unusual to us attorneys that a lot of the little clubs I represent and do the legal work for, these veterans clubs, suddenly start calling and saying, hey, we're suddenly cited for something that we've never been cited for before.
Right. All you have to do is connect the dots.
Dots, right. All right, my friend. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
540-0580. Phoebe.
Hi. I was wondering if there is any correlation between the government for tax purposes, a parent can give a child, well, I think it's $12,000 a year as a gift.
Phoebe, can you call me back next week or put it on weekendappointment.com?
Yeah, you bet.
Joe, you got to have to do the same thing. I know you're on hold, brother. Hey, folks, thank you very much. Carl Rominger here. Go to weekendappointment.com, register to get your free will, register so you can win free prizes, and if you got a good story on there, we're going to give you away some gift certificates. Make sure you get to weekendappointment.com. You can also get my phone number there if you need to see me or my email. Look forward to seeing you next week.